The View from the Gwladys Street podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to The View from the Gwladys Street podcast on the Royal Blue channel. I'm your host Ian Croll, and this week I'm joined by Rob Astell. How are you, Rob?
Good, thanks, mate. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Just the one guest this week. Does that make you feel a little bit special?
I know, yeah. Got the red carpet out for me and everything, didn't you?
Certainly have. Just wanted to point out we are not recording this podcast in our usual home of the Royal Blue studio due to unforeseen coronavirus circumstances. We've had to adapt, so we're doing this podcast from home. Our dedication clearly knows no bounds. So if our audio quality isn't as good as usual, then this is why, and I do apologise, but hopefully it should be fine. Anyway, Rob, how are you first? Are you good anyway?
Yeah, symptom free, so all good. I'm not in isolation yet.
Same here, which is obviously why we are pulling out all the stops to record this podcast. But let's talk about football and coronavirus. Situations. Monday, Everton should have been playing Liverpool in the final Merseyside derby of the season, but the world has basically been gripped by a global pandemic. I mean, I suppose that's one way of getting out of playing Liverpool, isn't it? What have you made of the past week?
It's just been like the weirdest week ever, really. You know, even the start of the week before, when after we got beat by Chelsea, ever since then it's just kind of snowballed into this like mini apocalypse, and like footy's just taken a back seat, really, hasn't it? Like, I think I'd spoken to people earlier on before the derby, in like a few days beforehand, and we were like, yeah, there's no way that's going ahead. Absolutely no way. And if it was, it would have been behind closed doors, which would have been the weirdest experience as well ever. You know, watching a derby with absolutely no fans in it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it like the world's just like it's falling apart, innit? And you know, footy takes a back seat until it manages to fix itself.
I mean, obviously this is kind of just spiraled out of control, following from probably last Wednesday when the Manchester City Arsenal game was cancelled, wasn't it?
Yeah, because didn't they have it was Arsenal, wasn't it? Arteta had said he needed to self-isolate. Yeah.
So obviously, I don't think it had broken at the time that Arteta had the coronavirus, but it was because the Arsenal players had come in contact with the
Olympiacos player. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So they made a decision to postpone the game. Obviously, it wasn't cancelled. It would have been postponed. But you know, there was no decision kind of made on the Liverpool Atletico game, and that went ahead, which is now seems crazy because Madrid is one of the worst hit areas in Europe, and you know. I just think, were they too late in cancelling football matches last week at the time?
I don't know, because I think the weekend before, hadn't it, the Italians had basically said they were playing behind closed doors, which was fine. You know, you minimise the risk if you're playing behind closed doors. And then I knew earlier on in the week as well, PSG played Dortmund, didn't they, on the same night, and their game was behind closed doors, and it honestly God astounded me as to why that Liverpool game was just like a normal night on the telly. You know, it was just not a normal game of footy, and then after that, slowly but surely, like I was away with work at the time, and I left Belgium on the Thursday, and it was like, yeah, this place is just going into lockdown now. The continent's going into lockdown, you know, and you just knew then there was no way footy was gonna carry on past that day, because I think on that Thursday as well there was Europa League games, wasn't there, and they were all behind closed doors as well. And were they too late? I don't know, it's hard really, isn't it? Because
I mean, they probably didn't really know what they were dealing with at the time, the powers that be. I mean, I know just former Everton player Wayne Rooney was kind of like scathing of the powers that be and the people in charge of at least not playing the Atletico Madrid Liverpool game behind closed doors, but really probably should have just been called off in the first place.
Because, and I think as well, on the Thursday or the Friday, the Premier League kind of took it into their own hands as well. And not even the Premier League, the EFL as well, because the government had said, yeah, you know, no change, things will still go ahead. And I remember Everton came out and said, there's going to be, we're preparing for the derby as normal. And then all of a sudden, I think there might have been a meeting between the clubs privately and went, modally, we can't do this. You look at the other leagues in the world, we can't do this, is just not right. So obviously they've made the decision to call it off. I don't think they were too late in doing it. I think, you know, you can only go on the advice that your government's giving you, really, can't you? They're the experts. They're the ones they're the ones in charge. And because they said business as usual, we all thought that was business as usual. But obviously, things going on outside the UK have spiraled, and here we are.
I mean, if you actually think back though as well, like I'm not being critical of anyone. It's a ridiculous situation that we find ourselves in. But Friday, I went into work preparing to go to the Everton press conference ahead of the Liverpool game. You know, I think we were kind of all expecting the Premier League, or at least the weekend's fixtures, to be called off and postponed. But then it broke that. I think at first it said the entire Everton squad were in isolation because one player had reported symptoms, but the Premier League still hadn't postponed any of the games. So it kind of got taken out of the Premier League's hands, really. Like, Everton players are on the advice of medical, you know, experts and the government, were now having to self-isolate for at least 7 to 14 days because they've been around someone who's showing symptoms. So there was no way they could have played the derby in the first place.
And it wasn't just Everton as well, because Man City come out and said Benjamin Mendy had come into contact, hadn't he? Then you had Arteta, I think a Leicester player as well, or a couple of Leicester players had gone through the same thing. So it was just a weird few days, really, for everything, you know, connected to football. No one kind of knew what was going on, but here we are now without football till at least, I'm not sure when it is.
Well, obviously they've suggested, or they've put in a plan in place that it's going to be up until the 4th of April, haven't they? Or the 3rd of April, which is, at the moment, is that realistic?
I don't know. Probably best asking Westminster, really, aren't you, if that's realistic? Because maybe
we're on the 18th of March now, so
3 weeks away, give or take. 3.5 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, but they've cancelled the Grand National now, so that's obviously another sporting event where thousands of people would attend. It's very unlikely that football is going to return on that date, or Premier League football at least.
The only way I can see it returning on that date is if it's behind closed doors. That's the only way. The only contingency plan they've got there is to play it behind closed doors. There's no way crowds will go to that game morally, you know, to protect themselves, and I don't think they'd be allowed in anyway. It's just, I just can't see. I can't see when we're going to play football again. If I'm being perfectly honest, I can't see the next time some competitive sport's going to be played the way the world's going at the minute. You know, France are in lockdown, aren't they? Everyone's closing the borders. It's just for the foreseeable. I don't think anyone can say it, really, can they?
Well, the one event that seems to be gathering a bit of traction to say that it is going to carry on is the Olympics, and that's coming from the Japanese emperor or prime minister or president, whatever you want to call them. But that is July, so that is a way off. But there's events in and around those dates anyway that have kind of said, well, there's more than likely going to postpone as well. Obviously, we won't go into the Olympics, but obviously this is a very, very serious situation. But, you know, if football is to return, which obviously, hopefully at some point it will.
It's boring, isn't it?
Yeah, it is boring. Not much to do. Can't bet and lose all your money on gambling, can you? But what happens with the leagues? Not just the Premier League. You've got there's hundreds of leagues around Europe and the world that aren't finished, and there's, you know, a very, very good chance that they won't be finished until a long time, if, you know, they want them to be finished. So there's 4 options really in terms of the Premier League that I've looked up on, and it's: number 1, finish the season no matter what; number 2, declare the season null and void; number 3, declare it null and void, but give Liverpool a title, or basically declare it null and void and give the players and the teams where they've finished those positions, and take the table as it is on the final table. So how do you see it? What happens?
It's the $1 million question, and it just seems to be, I think it's the only space they can fill on news channels at the minute, really, or sport news channels, because of what's going to happen. But because there's no sport being played. But I think, you know what, it's all well and good saying, "Oh, declare it null and void and make Liverpool not the champions," because as funny as that would be, I just don't foresee how that's ethically right, if I'm being honest with you. And I'm not just talking about them. I'm talking about the clubs who are fighting for champions. Look at Leicester. Leicester could be getting Champions League football next season based on their current form and where they are in the league. So what do we do? What do we do? Null and void. So they start again without European football next year. You look at the likes of, take Everton for example. I know we're 11th or 12th now, but we are still in with a chance of Europe. So we just meant to sit there and accept the 12th place financial givens and no European football next year. I know we are in extraordinary circumstances, but there has got to be like some logic behind this, and those options there, they kind of like the null and void ones kind of come about probably towards June time, don't they? When you think about it, you think about if you want to start next season afresh in August, if we can play football in August, then the null and void ones have got to come in as your last possible option.
Well, I feel like I spilled over my words for those options. So let me read them out again, just so we're clarified. There's 4 options, and I think I only read out 3. So from what I can gather, it's number 1, finish the season no matter what, so whenever it takes. Number 2, declare the season null and void. Number 3 is null and void, but give Liverpool the title because they've been that far ahead and there's no relegation. Number 4, take the table as it stands now. But can you... No, just on the final 3, really, null and void, and give Liverpool a title and no relegation. Okay, Liverpool are far, like 25 points ahead, but...
They're not confirmed champions. Not
confirmed champions, are they? You know, you can't... If they are given the title like that, it will always have a bit of a tainted, won't it?
It'll be the title they never won. And I know they're only 1 or 2 wins away from it, but...
Anything can happen in football.
Yeah, ethically, that number 3 option there isn't right, because you've got clubs then, if there's no relegation, what do? Do you bring up the top 2 teams from each league then and say, well, all right then, we'll bring you guys up and extend the league size? Or who's the lead of the championship at the minute? Is it West Brom?
West Brom and Leeds.
West Brom and Leeds. So you just say to West Brom and Leeds, you go again, lads.
If there's obviously been talk of a 22-team league as well. That's just another option.
If there's no relegation, that number 3 option for me, ethically, that's not right. That you open yourself up to like a ridiculous amount of lawsuits from all sorts of clubs with that one. Everyone would have a claim against that. The table as stands as the final table, again, that's similar, because you've got, who's the bottom 3 at the minute? Norwich,
Villa and Bournemouth. And a lot of them teams are all on the same points.
You know, Norwich aren't far off. I'm not saying they'll stay up, but they're not far off.
It's certainly not out of the question that they'll be able to survive.
Exactly.
In the final game.
Yeah, you know, it's the same as Liverpool. If they're not winning the title, they can't say that Norwich are gonna go down. Do you know what I mean? Those last 2 options, and option number 2 as well. It's a poison chalice, isn't it? But option number 2 for me is the last, like, right, we can't go any further here now.
Option 2, declare the season null and void completely.
That is like, this virus has gripped everything now, but we do see a way out, that we can start the leagues again in August, and as normal. But there's no way we're going to finish these in time. For me, you've got to aim to finish the season no matter what, and take it to like the last potential point. So the Euros were meant to take place, was it the 11th of June to the 11th of July? And I saw a thing on the internet the other day saying there's 92 Premier League games left to play this season, so that's 9 weeks worth of games. You could arguably fit that in, condense that.
You could do 2 a week.
You could do 2 a week. You could go Saturday, Wednesday for the remainder of the season. FA Cup. that's the only other domestic trophy you've got to think of there. And then for the European games, do them over a block week of 7 days, one for the Europa League, one for the Champions League, and try and condense it into the 4 or 5 week when the Euros was meant to be. It might spill over a little bit, and then maybe delay the season by a week or two next year. But again, you'll have to condense some games early doors, like go Saturday, Wednesday early on. So we're playing. You're going to be playing catch up for a long time, aren't you? Basically, and because you've got to be careful if you're playing the Euros next year, which is all well and good, but the 21-22 season will be a little bit different because people are going to be aiming to go for the 22 World Cup in Qatar, which takes place in November, December, is it? So they've got to do it by middle of July. If it's not done by middle of July, then you're into uncharted territory there.
So is that? I mean, UEFA have kind of said this week that they want all domestic leagues finished by 30th of June. So, do you think they'll extend that then to a point if they think the coronavirus is dwindling a little bit, and they think, well, we'll give it another month, we'll buy ourselves a bit more time and try and finish the rest of the seasons within that month.
Maybe. It's like you can probably compare football like to the world, can't you? And the way like the general world's working, you're taking each day as it comes. You hear stories about how some countries are starting to get back to normal in Southeast Asia now with coronavirus, who've been crippled with coronavirus. But then, so in a few weeks' time, we might be able to start playing football again. You never know. You know, it's take each day as it comes. But for me, ethically, morally, and for the good of the game as well, finish the season. Just finish it. I don't want to miss out on Europe next year. I don't want to not get Europe by default. I'd be gutted.
But would we, if it was based on last season's positions, would we finish 7th, 8th? Did we finish?
Is that what you so?
That's what I mean. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know.
How do they pick how'd you pick the European teams?
I mean, the City ban is still hanging over them as well.
This is like the maddest thing I've ever seen happen in football. Like the only time the sporting event I ever remember being postponed by for severe circumstances was the Grand National in the early 90s, and they played it. They ran it on the Monday, I think. That's the only time I've ever known this to really and I think it just goes to show the severity of the situation that football's now found itself in this situation.
I mean, what if it starts getting into territory of the season or August and September and stuff like that, and we still haven't played any games, or never mind like a couple of games
again?
Surely then you're looking at a bit of a push for it to be null and void, because you just don't know how it would work. Then you're basically going into next season then, aren't you? Like
I said, your null and void is your last resort, isn't it, really? That's like we better look, guys, we've tried to do this, we've tried to play, but we just physically can't do it. That's what you're looking at there. But then you're just opening up a can of worms for some clubs, aren't you?
And I'm going to open up more can of worms here, just in terms of other things that can happen. You've got contract issues. So as it stands, if you're out of contract with a club this season, more than likely your contract is going to finish on the 30th of June, which I think is why UEFA have kind of pinpointed that date. But you've also got players out injured now. Just giving examples. Gabama for one, but the example that I was going to give was Tottenham have got key players out injured now who can't play football now if the season was still running. So it was a Harry Kane and Son. So, more than likely, if they didn't pick up coronavirus and they recovered from their injuries, they could be back playing football. I'm fit, June, July, when the season shouldn't really be playing, but they could be playing. Is that fair as well? Speechless.
Yeah, that's just it. This is the situation we're in. It's absolutely mental. And then what happens? All right, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong on this because I might have read it wrong, but Finch Farm closed for 7 days, didn't it? Once.
On Friday, it definitely shut down, and it's still shut down now.
Still shut down. Now, are we going to start training again over the weekend? Or are we going to start training again next Monday? Because when you think about it, right, I mean, I'm not saying, I don't know whether we are or not, but what you run the risk of here, you run the risk of the players having, like, it's going to turn into a mini pre-season again. And I just think, at least with footballers, they can kind of live a bit of an isolated lifestyle, can't they? They can train with people who are in a clean, safe environment. They can go home, you know, put them under strict orders. So you could have them training like quite frequently and quite regularly. But it's how long is you training for without playing? And then, like you said there, again, getting players back injured. You know, we might have a fully fit midfield by June, it'd be great. But is that ethically right? And
in terms of, you're spot on in terms of what you're saying, but imagine if Everton do come back training Saturday because they're allowed to. I'm just like I'm just kind of making this up really, but the rest of the other 19 Premier League teams can't go back training. Everton have got an advantage and an edge because they've been training longer than the likes of, you know, if teams can't train, they're not going to be fit enough, are they? I know a couple of news outlets were reporting that, you know, the likes of Manchester United training was cancelled for them. I think pretty much, even if you know, a member of the squad in your football team hasn't, you know, reported symptoms of coronavirus, I think training's pretty much off anyway. I think that is the case. But you know, fitness levels are a huge thing in football, in sport, in any sport. We get that. But if a team goes back training now and has a couple of 3 or 4 weeks advantage, then, you know, we can go back playing football, and you even say, right, you need to start playing. 4 weeks, 5 weeks training ahead of a team who hasn't trained at all. It's quite clear who's going to have the competitive edge, isn't it?
Exactly. You know, it's another can of worms, and it'd be interesting to see what happens after this weekend. What you hear clubs doing. I heard Frank Lampard giving an interview today on Hudson Odoi and saying that he was doing well. And I'm thinking, are you doing that at Chelsea's training ground? Are you there? Are you with the players? You know, what's your situation? What's their situation? So it's just a massive can of worms, and whatever happens now between the end of the season, nothing will be certain. In terms of, like, you know, future states, because some clubs can just go, we don't think it was legally right that you carried on playing because these had an unfair advantage, like you just said there, etc., etc. So
you're not going to please everyone either way with whatever happens. I know this is a ridiculous situation, and you know, we can't even comprehend it because it's never ever happened before, and as far as we know in our lifetime, well, as far as we know, it definitely hasn't happened in our lifetime. But there's teams who are going to be annoyed no matter what, and it's obviously teams who are at the high end of the table and at the low end of the table, because at the end of the day, their season's going to be affected by something that's probably not going to be in their hands.
But nothing's in our hands at the minute, is it? It's in.
Good job we're crap and just averaging in the middle of the league, isn't it? Because
I think I texted you this the other day. I'd be gutted if we were meant to play, you know, a semi-final or in a Champions League place at the minute, because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. At least with bang average mid-table, nothing's going to change. Nothing changes for us, does it really? It's just a case of if and when we can start playing again.
And the other can of worms, which I'm going to open, I did briefly mention it there, but player contracts. Again, just an example that I'm going to use. Imagine if you've got I don't know who will be out there, but a striker who's scoring quite a lot of goals for you, but you know he's leaving at the end of the season on the 30th of June. Like, you're not happy that he's going, but you can accept that he's going because he's going on to bigger, better things. He leaves on the 30th of June, but the season's still not complete. Again, that's just not fair, is it? Because they shouldn't be playing. They shouldn't be playing football after a certain time, because you know he was registered to that club for that season, and now he's not there.
I think with that though, I think FIFA or UEFA or whoever will come in and say, mitigating circumstances will give you like a grace period if both parties can agree to it. So like if let's say for argument's sake, have we got anyone on loan? Don't think we have we?
On loan and are playing for us now. Sidibe.
Oh, Sidibe, yeah, for argument's sake, Sidibe. We might say to Monaco, look, we want to keep him to the end of our domestic league. He wants to stay. Can we extend this loan? And then come the end of, once that's finished, there'll be conversations being had there, I think, with that. I don't think you can easily, because imagine, like, let's say there's a player, like, desperate to, like, who's, like, banging form for, like, a club threatened with relegation, and all of a sudden he's gone because he can't play the last few games. That's unfair. There's there'll be agreements made there, I think, with that. So,
I mean, just to kind of summarise on that, for me, personally, my opinion, out of the 4 options that we kind of stated there, I'm sure there's a couple more and that people will be happy to, give their and voice their opinion on. But out of the 4, the 2 options for me are finish the season. And I wouldn't just say no matter what. I think the season has to be finished, but it certainly has to be finished by a certain time and a certain date. And unfortunately, the second one is another viable option, declare the season null and void. I just think the other 2 options, null and void and give Liverpool a title and no relegation, Liverpool won't want the title given to them. They can say it all they want. They can say, well, we were 25 points ahead, but how many games were left? How many games are left to play? Mathematically, it's not.
It wasn't.
It's not finished.
It should only be done on certainties at the end of the day. I mean, if it's declared null and void, does that mean we have to start with Marco Silva next year?
You never know. Imagine Carlo going back to Napoli. I'm sure he won't want to go back to Italy. But the 4th option, take the table as it stands. You just can't do it because, again, the amount of games that are left. Okay, Liverpool are that many points ahead. Anything can happen. Completely anything can happen. The likes of Aston Villa and Bournemouth and Norwich, they're in a group of a relegation fight. Any one of them can avoid relegation. And you're talking as well, hundreds of millions of pounds here to take away the positioning. Let's say we're 12th now, between 12th and 8th. That's million. That's like a small fortune. Farhad Moshiri's not going to sit back and just go, well, I feel, I'll accept that kind of thing. Personal opinion on it is, football can be a very controlled environment, and especially without fans, it can be an even more controlled environment. And I do think we'll start playing these games behind closed doors soon. That's my personal opinion. Or if they play behind closed doors, it will be during that period of the Euros, depending on the situation at the time. And they'll be streamed via certain channels. You won't be able to go and congregate, blah, blah, blah. But that's my personal opinion what will happen, because I can't foresee them never finishing the league. I can't foresee that ever happening, because that just opens so much crap for clubs, the FA, the lot to deal with. I completely agree. I do. I just think it's just got to be those 2 options. It's finish the season by a certain date, and if you can't do it, then unfortunately it is null and void. They're the only 2 viable options for me, and I'm not sitting here saying it with me Everton, hat on. I'm genuinely not. I don't want this coronavirus to exist. I want the season to finish, and probably more highly likely that Liverpool were going to go on and win the league. Again, who am I to say that was definitely going to happen? You just don't know, do you? You never know. And if it can't finish, then it's unfortunately got to be null and void, and you start again, within a reasonable time of this year, as long as the coronavirus has, started to dwindle a little bit. I mean, you mentioned the Euros there. Obviously, the right decision, without a doubt, to postpone it to 2021. And how ironic that UEFA organise a tournament across 14 countries in Europe, and you get the biggest global pandemic in the history of the world.
That's the most Everton thing to happen to UEFA, that, isn't it? That's it.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. Ancelotti's used social media the past couple of days to obviously tell people to remain calm, and he was spotted on, I think it was Crosby, was it? Formby
Beach, yeah. One of the posh areas, anyway.
What a guy Ancelotti is.
Do you know what, though? And credit to these people using the not just Ancelotti, the credit to the likes of them using their voice to, you know, to bring calm and bring reason to what's going on in the world at the minute. You know, Jurgen Klopp did something similar. You know, I can't stand the man, but you know, but fair play using the position like Duncan Ferguson did one today on Instagram. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Again, just using his influence on people to just remain calm and just be, we'll get through it kind of thing.
Okay. Any other business you think we need to discuss? Richarlison's haircut. What have you made of that? He's been keeping everyone entertained on social media.
How bored must you be if that's how boring life is at the minute? He's going back to 1998.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure you have noticed, but Richarlison's had his haircut in the form of Brazil legend Ronaldo. I'll be honest with you, I thought it looked a bit ropey, to be honest. It didn't look straight.
Professional hasn't done that, have they?
He's definitely done that himself, hasn't he?
Done that himself, yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's not really much else to talk about at the moment. I know it's all coronavirus stuff. I know there was talk last week before all this kicked off about a new definitive contract offer for Leighton Baines. How gutted would you be if that didn't go through? Because of this? Well, not because of this, but it didn't go through because he just wanted to do something else, and that's kind of the last time you've seen Leighton Baines in an Everton shirt.
It's unfinished business, isn't it? You know, he's a legend, Leighton Baines. For me, he's the best player I've probably seen play for Everton, or he's up there in the team of the best players that I've seen play for Everton. You know, and I'd be gutted if my last sight of Leighton Baines was.
What was it? I can't even remember.
Played in that United game, didn't he? And he got dropped for the Chelsea game. And he was great against United as well. You know, he was fantastic there.
Oh, before Chelsea, before we got smashed.
So, yeah, let's just erase that from more memory. Let's null and void that.
Let's null and void it. Let's start how we mean to go on it.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, that Leighton Baines decision to drop him for the Chelsea game, I was a bit gutted for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Dean's there on merit. He has been, but he has. I thought Baines probably should have been there on merit as well. Really.
Yeah, definitely, because he played the previous 2 games. Was it? He played.
Yeah.
And he was great in both of them. He was fantastic, and he's classy as ever, Leighton Baines, isn't he? He does the simple things good, and then he's a bit of a silent leader, isn't he? You know, he knows how that defence should work. He knows what his job should be, and I was gutted to see him pulled out the team because I don't think personally Lucas Dean's been playing particularly well, but you know, if he gets game time. Between now and the end of whenever, great. You know, it'd be great to see him again, and I really, really do hope he stays for one more year because he's just cool, isn't he? As well,
he is cool. He is a true Everton legend. Well, we are living at this moment in time in uncertain times. Not really sure how to finish the podcast off, really, other than just to say there is obviously not going to be any football for the foreseeable future. So, you know, we will try our best to bring you at least one podcast a week, whether that's just the Royal Blue or whether that is the fan podcast as well. I know the guys did a Royal Blue podcast on Monday. What are we now? Wednesday?
I don't know, I've lost track of all days.
I've completely lost track.
There's no footy, there's no Saturdays for me anymore. It just like rolled into one.
Well, we are officially in our office. We're working from home, so a lot of the stuff that we do will be done from home from now on. So we're lucky in that sense, but in terms of podcast, if there's anything that you want us to discuss over the coming weeks, we'll do our utmost to bring content and the podcasts to you, as long as we don't go into some sort of
isolation ourselves.
Yeah, isolation and, you know, Italy / Madrid style lockdown, which, you know,
could feasibly happen.
It certainly could feasibly happen. So
do a quiz next.
A quiz would be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, do like a 3 quarters of the season quiz or something like that, just to
I know.
See where we're up to.
But it need like a host, obviously, like me, and then it need 2 other people as well. Phone in. You could do like I'm sure we'll be able to do like a Skype.
Yeah.
Have you got Skype?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. Do you know we don't have to be in the same room?
Well, we did a quiz at the end of last season. It was the big fat Everton quiz of last season. Basically, that's what it was. So that did go down well. So we could do that. That could be an option. So if there's anything that you think we should talk about, or you think we should get off our chest, or just send us questions. We'll look at putting a plan together for content, and we'll hopefully bring you still the same amount of podcasts that we do over the next couple of weeks. Other than that, Rob, anything else to get off your chest before we finish for the week?
I just miss football. That's all it is. I just miss it. It just plays such a big part of people's lives, doesn't it? You know, I kind of plan
your life around football.
For it, really, and it just feels like, you know, is this what happens to people on Saturdays when they don't go to the match? Is this what is this the life they lead?
Well, I was working Saturday, Sunday, and I woke up on Saturday ready to go into work, and a complete mind block. I thought to myself, oh, I'll put a bet on today, just a little bet, because I haven't had one for a while. And then I was like, what am I going to bet on? I realised straight away what I thought.
I saw someone betting on the Mexican leagues or something like that the other day, and he was like, yeah, trying to get a knack of there is just the worst thing in the world. It's just like anyone can beat anyone kind of thing. And yeah, just...
Has it not hit Mexico?
It has, but they're still playing football, because Turkey is still playing football, aren't they?
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So fingers crossed we get it back soon.
All right, well, yeah, fingers crossed we do get it back soon. Obviously, that is the first thing, that we start getting rid of this coronavirus, and then hopefully everything else will follow, and sports and football and Everton, more importantly, will return. So, Rob, thank you for making the effort to come on the View from the Gwladys Street podcast in this worrying, uncertain coronavirus times. And thank you for listening to the View from the Gwladys Street podcast on the Royal Blue channel.
You've been listening to the View from the Gwladys Street podcast from the Liverpool Echo.